Yeah, sir, I'll call you, sir. Please.
Okay.
1 minute. Good morning to all the students. We have a speaker on CFO, shared CFO activities. It's a very important for you. It's the first time. Actually, CFO mean to say who is a CFO, Chief Financial Officer of a, it is a top post position in a company. We are actually fortunate to have speaker CA and CMA Mani Padmanabhan Garu. Okay, so now he has his background. If you know that, you will be happy to. He is a multi-domain finance and people leader, author, life fellow member at IOD, independent director, 3 decades in finance leadership, CFO and risk assurance, Indian and US listed entities, early stage companies, startups, CFO services and advisory services, trainer and mentoring young professionals. He is currently his partner with CFO Bridge LLC, that is limited liability company, fractional CFO services, advisor to productivity, advisor in Infinem Growth Learning Platform, advisor and mentor to startups, early stage companies, corporate background, head, head of governance, risk and compliance with Dr. Reddy's from 2013 to 2015, CFO with Vodafone West Limited, INR 5000 business 2007 to 2013. Finance head, Coca-Cola, 2001 to 2004. Prior corporate experiences encompassing 25 years given in section below. Professional achievements led business restructuring post M&A, resulting in four-fold increased revenue and multi-fold increase in profitability. Co-created business long-range plans and supported business with decision support to fuel 100% plus growth year on year for 3 years. Designed and strengthened governance frameworks and programs and worked actively with board committees in Indian and US listed entities. Created innovative funding structure giving operating flexibility and substantially reducing cost borrowings, generated huge cash savings from innovative tax positions and business restructuring, always been a natural business partner and a people leader. His achievements, author decoding risk management and introduction, possibly the first book on ERM by an Indian author. Articles on governance, ethics covered by international journals. So his professional experience and activities, CFO services, management and board advisory from 2015, assurance head and CFO at Vodafone, all these things I've already explained, and he has got a various, positions held in so many corporates. We have a speaker now, CA and CMA, Mani Padmanabhan Garu. Sir, now the session is handed over to you. Sir, thank you.
Thank you all. A very warm welcome to all of you, and thanks for the kind introduction, Mr. Prakash. I will maybe put it all in just a couple of lines, saying I'm a finance leader with about 3 decades of experience. I am as old as I look, if not older than what I look. And it's been a great journey, 25 years, and a lot of good companies, a lot of learning. And if I have to contextualize the first innings and the second innings, 25 years on the one side, and is there a problem with my audio? Yeah.
Now it's okay, sir. Yeah, there was.
Yeah. So what I was saying, if I have to contextualize my experience and put it in two buckets, 25 years with large corporates, working in the finance, heading finance, and being CFOs and those kind of roles, and last 7 years, which is largely in the consulting space, donned various hats. I don't know which one is more exciting. Probably, I believe the second one is more exciting because every day it's a new learning. Every client is a new client. Every business model is a new model. Every engagement is a new engagement. Every role, in that sense, is a new role. There's no cut, copy, paste of any engagement model into another engagement model, and that's precisely what I'm going to talk about maybe in the next about an hour or so. And my request is kindly keep it interactive. Stop me, wave me down, slow me down whenever you feel like, and uh, and please put your questions or your thoughts, or even if you have something to share with me. If you don't agree with me on something, or you agree with me on something, in both cases you can definitely make your point. I One more thing which I do is I am connected with the training in a big way. I do one of the big four companies. Most new MBAs or new joinees are trained by me. I'm one of the panel in that. And the topics range from the business processes in finance, which is P2P, O2C, all those kind of things, to governance topics like risk management, where I have some bit of comfort and knowledge, internal controls, internal audit, those kind of things. Also, I familiarize them. It's more, how do I say, orientation from a practical point of view into those topics rather than a very subject based teaching. So, that is again something I love to
Excuse
do.
me, sir. Please be louder. I mean, they've got a footage. No, please be louder.
I
Yeah.
think let me take this off. Maybe there is a problem with that mic. Can you hear
Okay.
me? Is it better?
Now it's okay, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Maybe
Okay.
I that was creating a problem. What I was saying is, I'll just quickly recap. So 25 years in large corporates, seen it all, and 7 years in as a consultant, as a CFO service provider. We don't actually use the word consultant much, but it's easier to explain what I do if I use that word. Because anybody who's not an employee in India is a consultant, right? So there is a joke on that also. Anyway, so but we actually get very deeply engaged with our customers or clients, and we are what we call as a CFO to them, and therefore we own we have our own KPIs, we have our own measurable performance indicators, deliverables very, very clearly defined. I'm going to talk about that. What I was also saying is there's a lot of training that I do with a couple of big fours, and I'm a trainer for many of the modules for their new joinees who could be either the new MBAs or hired into any of their processes world over. So that's a brief introduction. And as I said earlier, please keep it interactive. Wave me down, slow me down, stop me whenever you want. If you point of disagreement or agreement, whatever is the case, kindly tell me so, and I'll either clarify what I'm saying or I'll probably learn from you. Either way, it's a learning, right? So let me then. I have put a deck, and although I believe more in personal engagement, but it's a heterogeneous crowd, so I just thought I'll put something on the theme called shared CFO services, and we can probably connect on that one theme, and then spend the rest about 1 hour talking about it. Yeah. So can I start now? Do I have your permission, participants,
Sir,
to?
sir. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Before that, before I get in there, can I know a little bit about the team which is here? I mean, just largely, what is their background? Are you all, practicing finance professionals or working finance professional? Somebody, anybody. For example, Mr. Manjunath, what is it that you're doing?
No, Manjunath, please unmute the mic and talk.
Sir,
He's
good morning,
doing his
sir.
cost
Good
account.
morning, sir.
Yes,
Sir, good
speak.
morning.
Go
Hello,
ahead,
sir.
sir.
Sir, am I audible?
You are.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. I'm actually pursuing CMA, sir. I'm a CMA intermediate student.
Oh,
So I'm looking forward to complete my CMA, and I'm planning to do some finance courses, sir, relating to
because then I can,
financial.
okay, yeah, then I can accordingly address some of your thoughts, Cecilia. That's why I asked you. Okay, so you are a student.
Yes, sir.
All of you here are students, um, or some of you are kind of working professionals? How's it, Mr.
Sir,
Sandeep? Mr. Sandeep Shivanathan, is it? Or Shiva, I can say. Shivana, I can say. I can't say the full name.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Sir, I am working as research analyst in tax sector.
Sorry, you're working as
Research analyst in tax sector.
research analyst. Okay. And you're also a finance professional?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Would that be the same with everybody, either students or within the first 7-8 years of your job? Would that be a common homogeneous set for all of you?
So some of them are students, some of them are housewives, and this is a
Got it.
different mixture, please.
Got it. Got it. Then I can accordingly address that when I'm speaking about CFO service, because this model is actually very, very useful to even people who want to work part-time, or like you said, who are homemakers, or who do not want the so-called full-time 9 to 5 role. So this model could be quite relevant to that group also. So okay, so I start. Will be sharing my screen, and kindly, as I said earlier, stop me and question me, or ask me to slow down if I'm going too fast, and I'll be right there with you, right, to clarify your points, right? Okay, so let's start with what the CFO service essentially is, right? What is it that if my computer is stuck somewhere? Just one second. Yeah, so that's my background. I'm a CA, CMA, CFE. I'm a certified fraud examiner also. I'm an IP, qualified IP licensed to practice, although I've not been doing too much on that front. I'm a fellow member with Institute of Directors, which is a worldwide group of directors. It's probably the single largest body of directors and wannabe directors in India. I'm a partner with CFO Bridge. I also co-founded startup practice setup called We Assure You, and I'm a trainer and a mentor. And as Mr. Prakash sir rightly said, I also am associated with Infinum Growth, and I am an advisor to ProDBT, right? So that's overall a quick brief. So I'll be discussing with you the shared CFO service model, and probably thought that you guys may not be so familiar with this model, and hence I chose this model, right, to talk to. So just to start with, what do these terms mean to you? Have you heard these terms? Fractional CFO, virtual CFO, shared CFO services. Have you heard these terms? Anybody? Yeah. Lavanya?
Sir,
Yeah. Anybody? Yeah, please.
sir, I think shared CFO services are like delegating some of your financial activities or financial decisions to some of the other third parties, sir.
Good. But fair enough. That's a good answer. But these words, which word do you connect with? Have you heard these terms? Fractional, virtual, shared?
Sir, I have heard them, but I do not have any particular idea, sir. Like a
Okay.
pinpoint idea, I do not have that.
No problem. Anybody else would like to add something to what Manjunath said? Okay, fine. No problem. So these are terms which are often interchangeably used to mean something like what you clarified, meaning a service model where an external person provides exactly those services which are in-house or an internal CFO provides to the company, except that person, he or she would not be an employee of the company. I'm just giving a definition at a high level first, and then I'll come down to details. Of these terms, the one which is used most in India is virtual CFO service, although there is a misnomer. It's actually not a right word. Although I also use that term because it's become so, it's like some words you use which have become almost like generic words like dalda, right? You mean vanaspati when you say dalda. The same way, you mean fractional CFO and shared CFO when you actually say virtual CFO. Actually, the virtual CFO as a term is not a very appropriate term because the very word virtual means it's not real, right? When you say I'm virtually there, meaning you're actually not there, right? You're kind of present there, your shadow is there, etc., but you're not there. But that's not exactly what a shared CFO service means. That I'm there, I've got so many hours in a day, very, very, very practically to put it across, and I give a certain amount of my time to a certain organization to help them with the finance strategies, etc. Yeah, and help them get their finances in order, develop processes for them, etc., etc. Right, exactly what an in-house CFO would do. So the term we'll use more often is from now on is either shared CFO service, shared CFO service or fractional CFO service. But I can assure you that the word virtual CFO service is often used to mean the same thing, right? And rather it's used more often in India than the other two terms, right? Now, getting in a little deeper into the whole thing, some of the common questions that are asked, some of the common doubts, some of the common thoughts are, is it a part-time role, part-time employment role? Is it a consulting engagement in a particular domain within finance, which is essentially what you kind of were alluding to? And or is it just an advisory role? So which one do you think fits into the shared CFO definition? Anybody?
Sir, I think consulting engagement in a particular domain, sir.
That is the closest fit, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would say a bit of three also fits in because even an employee is an advisor. So, for example, if I have someone like you working as a CFO, let's say, or I am working as a CFO in your company, paid full time, typically CFO, we all are aware of. He's also an advisor to the company, isn't it? All senior leaders have a substantial, or some portion of their role is also an advisory. So is it an advisory role? The answer is yes, it is, but it is not just an advisory role. That's the way I would differentiate this. Is it a consult? It's certainly not a part-time employment role, so that's crossed out because it's not an employment in the first place. The very definition of employment doesn't fit in here, right? Now, the only difference I have to point number two, although logically it sounds the best fit for shared CFO service from a definition point of view, the only objection I have to that line is it's not for a particular domain within finance. Typically it is the entire leadership of finance is essentially managed by an outsourced CFO partner. It's not that an outsourced CFO partner is someone who will come and set your treasury right, or although that can also be the case, and I will talk about that when I talk about the different service offerings. That can also be the case, but that's not the only case, right? Typically, it is a retainer role where you come in, and these days it's very common. You have, by the way, I was surprised the other day. I met someone, and a very smart young chap, and he introduced himself as a shared CMO. I said, "Yeah, I didn't know there is a shared CMO, which means Chief Marketing Officer." And I met another fellow in the same group. It was a big B&I group, and he introduced himself as a shared HRO, human resource officer, CHRO, shared CHR, Chief Human Resource Officer. So these things are becoming quite common. Anyway, to get back, so these roles are not for a particular domain, but largely to give a leadership to that particular function. For example, a CMO is responsible for the entire marketing, not just for a digital marketing campaign or something like that. Similarly, a CHRO, a shared CHRO would be kind of responsible for the entire HR function of that particular company. Same way, a shared CFO is not just looking at a particular domain, but looking at the entire finance function, right? So that's the one doubt I wanted to clear, and hence I put it in a question form. But it's certainly not one. And there's a great advisory component, advisory as a component. I mean, the shared CFO service, if you can componentize it, advisory would certainly be there in a fair measure, because whatever you're doing to a company in terms of taking it to prosperity, protecting the value, also entails that you are a trusted advisor to the board and to the shareholders of that company, right? Could it be startup? It could be anything. It could be a startup. It could be a small and medium segment company, or it could be a large company, right? Is it clear so far? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just move further then. Well, the answer is this is a complete hands-on. Sorry, we'll go back. Yeah, this is a complete hands-on performance-driven engagement, as I was saying earlier. You know, we carry targets. For example, right after this, sometime during the day, I would actually sit with on the MI's presentation for one of my clients in Bangalore. We work all 7 days. You know, it's a very different to a company. We are our own brand, right? And so we have a target. We have dates. By 1st, I need to do this. By 7th, we need to do this. Yeah, and if there is a contract being signed, that can, some are of course defined by time, some are also ad hoc. Like suddenly one contract has come up. Now you can't wait till the 7th of the next month to speak to me, right? So there is a hotline which goes on and on key matters impacting finance. For example, this guy was having a big problem in allocating budget for substantially large customer acquisition for a SaaS company, for a SaaS model. So he called me, and over the weekend I had to do some work for him. So it keeps happening all the time. So it's a complete hands-on performance. It's not a consultancy role the way we understand that you invite someone, he comes to his office, and depending on what you place in front of him, he advises you on that, or maybe does some small work around it and returns that assignment in a complete form to you. That's usually definition of consulting. And usually consulting also has a start and an end date. Of course, the consulting could then take, or the consultant could then take on another area. That's fine. But typically for one specific role, there is a start and end. Whereas typically in a shared CFO model, there is a continuum. There is no end date as such, because every month you close books, every month you need to have your financial analytics, business analytics performed. Every week, you need to look at your cash flow to see how your cash flows are trending out, and what are the trends, what are the how the KPIs are shaping up, etc., right? So therefore, it's a strategic role. It's not so much a very operational role also, because you don't sign checks, you don't process bills, and you don't do basic. We don't do basic accounting. There are companies which are called CFO service, and they do accounting, core accounting work also. We don't do that. Yeah, we only come in as exactly what a CFO would do, which is a strategic role, and we catalyze in building business projections. We catalyze the creation of business plans. Organization scorecard is something that we create for every single client that we engage with. And performance driving is one of our key goals. Are we going in the chartered? Are we trading on the path that we have chosen for ourselves? Okay, that's essentially we keep asking ourselves with respect to every single client, and we keep informing the client on how they are doing with respect to their goals. Yeah. Any questions so far? Any questions? Any thoughts? Yeah, can we have somebody else also, like Mr. Shekhar? Any questions you have? Teja, or you're all comfortable so far?
So for them, it's a new subject, actually, the topic. So they maybe
all the more they should have plenty of questions and doubts, but that's fine. That's fine. I also would request the participants if they can switch on the video if possible. If there is some Serious issue, no issues on in that case. But otherwise, it's always good to connect, meet, and connect virtually. In this case, virtual is the right word. Uh, so we can at least virtually meet each other. So
The
Pavan,
students can open up their videos, please. You come on video. Yeah.
Chaya, Vandana, Prasad, Mr. Chanchal, Sandeep. So if you can switch on the video, it will be good. I'll have an opportunity to see you, look at you, and maybe connect better. Yeah. Okay. Fine. So I'll proceed. What is exactly the scope of the CFO service? So what exactly we mean? So typically, this is the as they say, a vanilla product is this, where we perform MIS analytics and provide actionable insights, where we identify drivers of growth. What will drive your company? Is it technologies and manpower, resource, capital, or new products? Maybe your existing products may not take you. Maybe you have to redesign your products. So to get better market share, those kind of things come under D. In the C, so it's an acronym, MDCTC we call it. So M is MIS analytics, drivers for growth would be the T. Cash flow management would be the C. This is a very, very significant, by the way, work for many of our startups, because our typical client profile, by the way, is a SME. And we have our own definition of SME, by the way. It is not small and medium segment as it is called. We call it startup and medium enterprises, because the other small, which is the micro, we don't go there, because that's not a client profile so much for us. So it's more the startups, essentially the funded startups, or even startups looking for funding. And the small and medium, what is the definition of small? Any company maybe under 500 crores of top line, who probably don't have a full-time CFO. That's typically the client profile. Not to say that we cannot have larger clients, but for the vanilla product of CFO service, this is typically the profile, right? And as I said, so therefore for them, the detailed cash flow management becomes extremely important. Training on key financial skills, help them, support them on maybe topics like tax structuring, and we have a tax expertise group within us, or on things like how do you prepare a contract, taking care of all the commercials and the legal aspects. How do you look at the balance sheet and analyze the solvency and certain things like the current ratios, etc., etc. Those kind of things come and very need-based. It's not training for the sake of training. It is very need-based training on what that company, in our opinion, needs the most, right? And then we have compliance and governance, which is compliance we all understand, and the governance are processes within an organization to ensure that the objectives of the organization are met. That's essentially what governance is: the structures, the infrastructure, the team sizing, the kind of creating those reporting structures, etc. That's essentially what comes under the governance. And besides the standard scope, shared CFO provides strategic inputs. As I said earlier, when I was talking in the earlier slide about the earlier slide, or rather with the earlier slide, I was saying that we act as a strategic partner. So in addition to this, we are there whenever the companies want for any advice, suggestion, etc. Right? Moving further, what are the unique aspects of the so-called CFO service model that we provide? It could change across companies, but this is our model. So I'm explaining this, which is CFO Bridges, which is the engagement scope is completely bespoke. There's nothing cast in stone. The engagement is a mix of on-site and off-site. So there are days we go, there are days we don't go. Doesn't mean I'm not in front of him, his work is not happening. That's not the way it is. Incidentally, one relatively senior CA stroke MBA with about between 5 to 10 years of experience is usually attached to a client that I bring, and same applies to any other partner. So therefore, while we would be the engagement partner and we bring the client and offer the strategic support, but there is a back-end resource, a very qualified senior resource working with the company, right? And the unique thing is we drive the objective setting. So we co-create the business plans, we co-create the targets, revenue, cost, profit, etc. We create a scorecard. This is a very unique thing. We create a scorecard which is essentially identifying the key goals, metrics, and also giving a performance, how do I say, performance and evaluation metrics. At the end of the year, how will you assess whether you have performed well on these goals or not? Which means to say, if your target is say 100 crores, I'm just exaggerating to make a point. And if you make 80 crores, how much of the goal have you achieved? So we therefore give a bandwidth and say that if you have achieved less than 50%, then your achievement is actually 0. It's like an examination where if you don't score 40, you're not cleared the exam. You have to rewrite the exam again. But if you score about 80, then you've done very well. The same way in the performance bandwidth is provided, which the clients can use to and track every month to see how they are progressing on the goals that they have identified, right? So that's another important point. Now, why is the CFO service as a service, shared CFO service, so important for SMEs? As I said, our client base is startups and medium. Pardon me for this spell check error. Medium is misspelled. Yeah, startups and medium sectors cannot usually afford a full-time CFO. Companies under 300 crores or maybe 150, 200. 250 is, I think, the defined SME limit as per the latest amendment brought in last year, and that's one reason why they look up or look out for our support. And businesses need to create business plans and prepare financial forecasts to unlock their business value. Otherwise, an idea is an idea. It's like a money kept in a locker. It has to be used up. It has to be commercialized. Only then the business value truly is unlocked. And they also need to identify the key resourcing requirements, people, capital, processes, etc. Early stage businesses require money, require capital. So more importantly, even before, many people come and say, hey, we need money. I said, okay, you need money, but are you ready to meet the investor? Meaning, I use this term, are you investor ready? Meaning, is your business clearly defined? What are you doing? So we help creating the investor pitch deck, and those are the other services that we provide also, so that we and in the process, it's a very very interesting process where we both of us discover really what the business can do. When you sit into this and make your projection, create a business model, what's your go-to-market strategy, how much money you need, where the money is going to be utilized, you actually start discovering many things about the company, right? And then when you meet an investor, you're that much better informed to answer all the questions that a potential investor may ask you, right? And last but not the least, businesses need expert transaction advisory for proper entity structuring. Hey, do I set up a company in India, or do I keep it in Singapore and then have a SPV kind of a structure in India so that I can raise funding in Singapore later, because it's easier to attract global money there. Those kind of things, yeah. And some people come and say, hey, I'm having a lot of problems in my... So that point of yours is also true. Some specific area within finance, can you help us? So we do those kind of streamlining of business processes also, right? Please stop me if you have any questions, right? It's a very, very quiet audience. I'm not usually used to such a quiet audience. Anybody wants to ask anything? Vinay, Chanchal, Chaya, Manju, you've been speaking, you've been asking a few questions. Mustafis, any question you guys have? Any thoughts?
So does financial modeling tie into CFO services, sir?
Yeah, yes, it does.
So could you explain more about that? How it does affect, how it does tie with it?
Yeah, so when I come to the next slide, you'll get your answer when I come to the next slide, right? So stay with me. You see, these are typically the, in addition to the vanilla, can you see the screen? Is this
Yes.
blocking you or something? You can see,
Yes,
right?
sir. No, screen is open. Okay.
Okay.
Quite visible.
So there are, that's why I'm using the word other engagement model. The vanilla retainer CFO service is one that I've been talking to you about till now, where we come in as an outside person, outside in, and we support you in leading and managing your finance function using high level what, right? And that's usually retainer scope and not for any specific, how do I say, domain, subdomain within finance, but largely managing the commercial and finance function. That's a vanilla model. But we have other engagement models, and that's exactly an answer to your question. The first one, if you see, is transaction advisory model, where let's say you are a startup and you want to raise funds, and you come to us, and then we'll support you getting you investor ready first, which is your investor presentations, financial forecasting, what funding you need, where the money is going to be used, what's a rough valuation of your entity, and therefore what is the stake you're going to give to the investor, those kind of stuff, right? They come under transaction advisory in case you're a startup. If you're a mature company, let's say you want to buy out another company, or you want to offer yourself as a potential target to someone who wants to buy you off, so that comes under M&A. So both the sell side and the buy side can be represented by us. And essentially the multi-stakeholder management, right? If you already have something going on and some processes you're kind of like, could be tax, could be entity structuring you're doing, and you want someone to kind of manage all the stakeholders and to see that things are not falling between cracks, the handoffs are properly defined. So we come in there also. That's what we call multi-stakeholder management. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Yeah. And on IR, which is a new service offering that we have started, investor relation. This is, by the way, this particular service is not for small company, because investor relation as a service or as a role or as a function exists when you are large, and we have diverse investors from across the globe, or even in India for that matter, large investors who require a lot of specific information, frequent interaction with them. And usually in large company, there is a separate role called IR. Investor relation is a role in itself. I mean, most large companies, the top 100 companies across the globe, or in for that matter in India also, have a person actually donning this role, managing this role, right? So, but we can come in as an outsider and as your CFO partner and support you in creating the developing and building the IR function, and in which we definitely would engage with all your investors, and each investor may have a different kind of information need, although largely they have commonality of interest, which is the prosperity of the company. But depending on if you are an early stage investor or a very, very money-minded VC kind of an investor with a short-term focus, then the information requirement will be a little different, and we act as a bridge between the company and the investors, and ensure and providing and managing the investor interest as well as protecting the company. So that's what we do in the second bucket. Third bucket, very interestingly, is a new service offering we have started. We are very proud of this offering, because we believe that nobody kind of does it this way, the way we are going to do, which is known as a managed CFO service for SME listing. As you all know, there are two listing boards. One is the main board, which is what we all know, NSE, BSE. And particularly within MHE, there is a sub-board called NSE Emerge, which is nothing but the SME listing, which means there are two kinds of listing. One is the main listing that we all know about, and the other is SME listing. SME listing, the conditions are significantly watered down compared to the main listing, and it's not as draconian or as stringent process. So a lot of SMEs these days are looking to list on the SME portal first. It is most of the benefits of the main listing minus some of the hassles. And so they love to get themselves listed through the MSC listing route, and then after a couple of years elevate themselves to the main board, right? So in this, what usually happens with an SME, and I'm actually thinking of one client when I'm saying this, what usually happens is they are a good business, top line, maybe 30, 40, 50 crores like that, making 3, 4 crores profit consistently year on year. But they don't have a full-time finance guy. They're very overawed going to a merchant banker and suddenly what all I have to do, who will manage that, who will professionalize the board, who will do the peer audit for the last 3 years and ensure that the audited accounts and the DRHP now, first the accounts have to be particularly audited in a particular way. There is a peer auditor has to, if you have an auditor who's already qualified, that way fine, otherwise you'd add that value. And then comes the DRHP and then managing merchant bankers and other intermediaries. So they're often very overawed by this, who will manage it, because we have only one, whatever, CEO and a couple of people down the line, and the rest of them are all in sales. So there we are finding tremendous, they are finding tremendous value in this managed CFO service, which is again ring fencing the entire process, starting from going a step back. Why do you need, is SME the only route you need to raise funds? Why can't you look at banks? Starting from justifying an SME listing to, reviewing the financials, remediating the financial records if required, and then stepping into the next process of appointing merchant banker intermediaries, working with them, working through them, working along with them to ensure that the company gets listed. And by the way, listing, I always say this analogy, listing is like a childbirth. The problem, or problem is the wrong word, the thing doesn't end there. It's just a beginning. And after that, you have a series of compliance. I mean, you have to follow through. You have to institute a very, very strong governance process that can sustain the post-listing period also. So it's not enough to say, "Aaj mera listing ho gaya, it's done. Let's go back to sleep." It's not like that. The listing is just the beginning. It's like a childbirth. And then, as the child is growing, you have a lot of problems, or a lot of, again, issues to handle, right? In the same way, once the SME listing happens, it's only beginning of the next set of more, probably even more work is after that, right? So this is something we're actually pretty proud of, and we have also partnered with the merchant banker and give an end-to-end product to you with very, very transparent pricing, right? This again something, this are some of the other engagement models. What we specifically don't do is statutory audit, secretarial services, bookkeeping, any specialized legal or tax opinion, because while we are qualified, especially on the last point, give most of the commonplace tax advisory, but let's say we believe, and sometimes it's better to go to a neutral party in the interest of the client more than in our interest. We would like to keep, but then we are doing so more in the interest of the client. Tomorrow, if that opinion is picked up somewhere, it should not so be inferred that, oh, it's your own shared CFO partner company which is given, so it should not, there should be no, how do I say, there should be no tinge of perceived bias in the opinion that is given. So hence it's sometimes better to go to a third party. And statutory, obviously, we can't do because we are not practicing CS in that sense. We don't hold the license. Secretarial services, again, these are specialized services. But what we certainly do is we can engage with all, especially a small company cannot go to 10 people. So we'll certainly engage with them, and depending on the kind of a service, the service provider and the client will directly deal with one another, but we can syndicate that and bring all of that under one umbrella, right? So that we do, although we may not expressly provide some of the services. Something in the chat box, which course is Mustafa's? Okay, I'll come to that. I'll come to that point. Your question is on financial analyst, right? I'll come to that. And then busy chart, but don't worry, just a proof, so that you understand that what I'm talking, this exactly the scope I've given to one client. Only the name I've removed, so to protect the confidentiality requirement. So I usually split it into two: strategic partner and CFO service and guidance. It's called services. That's why I say consulting as a term we don't use, because it's not consulting in that sense. Although in a very generic sense, we may use that, but because we are not employees. So if you're not employee, as I said earlier, you're a consultant. There's no third word, unfortunately. So in the strategic partner, we do business objective and goal setting. And then, we do all of this. We develop a scorecard for the company, performance analysis, insightful MIS, category-wise, segment-wise analytics, which all of you know. And the output is an MIS report, KPI-driven and all that. Data validation, we usually do at a high level to see how the data is coming, to see that the numbers that are generated are actually from the trial balance and from the books of accounts. I've already talked about drivers for growth, what we do, and financial forecasting I've talked about. And I've also talked about decision support, or maybe I didn't dwell too much on it, which is customer segmentation, pricing, credit policies. We review and advise on this. This is where the advisory role again comes in. I said in the beginning, there is a very strong advisory overtone to this role, and regulatory compliance and audit. So basically checklist-based review to see whether all compliances are covered and addressed. Budgetary allocation for companies who need, not most companies ask for it. This particular client asked, they said, hey, I want you to help us in the budgetary allocation also, which means tell us what is the amount that is that we can spend, how much money is available, what is the runway on cash, how much money is available to be employed for generating higher growth numbers, right? So that we can reach the targeted number faster. So those kind of things. This is typically a scope document. I just removed the name, as I said. So we're still expanding. Would like to work with the partners, and we do work with a lot of partners. As I said, merchant banking, we have partners. We have partners for certain matters in tax. We have partners in bookkeeping services, like that. We have partners for secretarial work, those kind of things. So we are a network of about 30 partners across the country, and twice that number of staff to assist us. And these staff are all very qualified staff, as I said, CAs with about 10 years. Essentially, the background typically is a consulting, or would have worked in a corporate maybe, but also more than that skill, honestly. In corporate, you just work in one place, and so that's fine. But these are people who have that hunger and the ability to manage 4 or 5 clients, and more like consulting organization they would have worked for, like a big 4 company. So that's usually where we pick our resources from, and that's about it. And many of them grow up to become partners also, quite young age also, depending on their capabilities. It's a very, very flat organization. We don't have layers and layers. Nobody reports to anybody. Everybody is a entrepreneur in himself. So we also call ourselves, I'm a founder. I don't take 1 rupee salary. I bring business and take a share of that. I've never taken salary for the last 7, 8 years. And this is exactly how we work. And we all have our bit in the game. If we bring customers, we grow, the firm grows, and the brand grows, right? Yeah. So I'll formally put an end to it, to the presentation now. And anybody ask any, I'll answer the question on financial analysis. Is I often say this. There are 2 kinds of one. The pure knowledge is what the degree gives you. Like I'm a CA, somebody could be MBA, and these are certifications that you obtain after doing certain things, learning certain concepts, and acquiring a certain amount of knowledge in certain fields. The other thing that I always talk about is skill. Okay, for example, not all CAs are similarly skilled in treasury, for example. Why is that so? That's because skill is different. In our country, unfortunately, as last 3 or 4 years is becoming better, the professional skilling has not been taught. What has been taught is knowledge, how to clear your exams well. And I'm not telling that's very bad. We all grew up that way. I'm very grateful to that foundation that I had in my student days. And when I cleared my CA 32 years back, it's known to be a fairly tough degree in those days. And probably the best 3 years of my life were those CA. I keep saying this. The best 3 years of my life that I kind of really, really enjoyed. I was a rank holder in Inter. I was a rank holder in Entrance. I never really, it was a very, very enjoyable phase in my life. So financial analysis to me is more a skill, and how you perfect that skill. I think maybe learn some skill-based learning where you understand how do you analyze numbers, how do you look at numbers, how do you, for example, P&L is a statement, profit and loss account. Financial analysis, in my view, is converting those numbers in a manner that KPIs is that kind of, I call it a KPI view of financial numbers. So if you're looking at a P&L, you see sales, you see cost of sales, whatever, then you get a profit. When you're doing a financial analysis with the same number, you're actually saying sales. Within sales, what are your product groups? How has it fared this month versus last month versus last year, to take care of the seasonality? Because otherwise, when you compare with the previous month, the sales guy will say the last month, there is a season change. Okay, last year you would have had the same month, right? So what is it with last year, same month? How are you comparing yourself against budget? So it's more analysis you're doing on the number, whereas the financial accounting is all the base number. That's the way I differentiate. So it's a very skill-based thing. I think a CA degree is more than enough from a formal education point of view, or a CFA degree. But I guess more than that is read a lot of financial statements, look at ratio analytics, and really take a financial statement and see and talk to yourself like this. I want to check the company's solvency and look at current ratios. Current ratios very high. It's a little too high. Maybe they have blocked too much of capital. Then get into performance ratios. Look at inventory turnover. So, try to keep honing your skills like that, and that's the only way one becomes good in financial analytics, in my personal opinion. Yeah. Any other questions anybody has? We still have 7 minutes before Mr. Prakash will put the shutter down, so we can talk for another 7 minutes. Are you all guys there? I mean, it's an request. Can you put your videos on, or are you guys really connected? Because I'm not hearing anybody other than Manjunath.
Yes.
Actually, and Mustafiz, you asked the question. I hope you got the.
All the students, please open up your videos. Keep it open.
I can see Miss Chaya. I can see Galaxy M20. I don't know the name of the person.
It is gonna, there on that phone.
Yeah,
I mean,
I understand.
on the
So
mobile.
sometimes it comes by a laptop named Dell.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes,
Right.
sir. There.
So Chaya, what are you doing, Miss Chaya?
I'm not doing any job right now.
What is your background?
MBA, sir.
MBA from?
Geetham, Hyderabad, the business school.
Oh wow, that's a good institution. My wife goes there for training a few times. Okay.
But
good.
not for me.
So what is your plan, Chaya?
Right now, actually, I'm having some mental issues, so I'm not having any plans.
Okay. What about Chanchal? What are you doing? You're muted, Chanchal.
I am
Chanchal,
degree second year.
Okay. Your degree
and
is
she's
second year.
also working as a teacher.
Very nice. Very good. Where are you working, Chanchal, as a teacher?
Vijay.
So I'm working at my father's shop only, sir.
Okay. Very nice. And second year what? In BCom second year?
BCom second year, sir.
Okay. Good. Very good. You're very, very young. You have miles to go. Long way to go, right? Have you thought of CA as your next target, or you want to do
Yes,
MBA?
sir. I'm thinking of.
Why not MBA?
No.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Teja, can I see you? I'm seeing your, okay, it's Miss Teja. I'm so sorry. What do you do, madam? You're on mute, madam.
I'm a housewife, sir.
Okay. And what's your background? You're also finance professional?
BCom background, sir.
Okay. Would you be interested in doing something which is part-time? There are a lot of portals these days which offer part-time engagement, right? So you want to work, let's say 10 days a week or 5 days a week. There are a lot of such options available these days. Earlier, these kind of opportunities weren't there, but these days you have, a lot of part-time working, right? You can look at that.
Okay.
And gainfully use your time. Yeah, Mr. Vinay, I can see a plain wall. And the gentleman whose name is coming is Galaxy MP. Sorry, what's your name, sir? Vandana, Mustafis, can you also switch on your videos? Tarun, how did you find the topic, sir? Any thoughts other than from those who have been speaking? Mustafis, you can say, although you didn't speak, but you put in a text. But anybody else? Okay. Mustafis, are you having a problem with your audio? Okay. Tarun, how about you? What do you do?
So some of them actually they're from outside Hyderabad, Vizag, and other places also. They may be having some network issue also. There may be. I mean, otherwise they're comfortable. I think.
Yeah. Right. So then, if they don't have
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
anybody you want to ask something, sir? I'm more than happy to answer.
Sir, actually, it's the first time for them exposing them to corporate, multinational companies, the corporate structure, and this higher level of financial management. That who will handle what is this. So it's an attempt for them to expose these sort
Sure.
of lectures. So
Sure.
that is our attempt only.
No,
And
absolutely.
it was a very, very informative. And then I wanted to make it as a mention because my son works for this Deloitte as a senior consultant in Chicago. And he also talks about that partners, actually they have so you were mentioning about the partners. So they bring the business. Am I correct?
Absolutely correct.
So they got a same model. So I used to hear about it like a. So you are exposing our students to such a level, how a corporate function, who will bring the business, how they operate it, all this thing. It is a work culture, and this all it's a terminology also. It's a very, very informative. I request all the students to unmute the mics, and so let us all say thanks to him by clapping your hands, all of you. I love you. Sir, our students are actually, they may not be interactive, but the thing is that they were actually listening to all the full topic, and then they wanted to say their thanks to you. So thanks a lot. It was a wonderful lecture for us. It is an attempt, as I told you, make them to expose them to higher level of management. Am I correct, sir? Of the corporate.
Absolutely right. And I would just say one thing to the students, because I keep experiencing, I interact with many students. So right now I'm interacting with close to about 150 students in across different batches. And I think what, of course, that's a different lot. So they are very, they're all employees, Big Four firm, I don't know to name it. And so they are going through their induction. So as to say through me, other trainers like me. I'm not the only person. So in that, so they have to seek a lot of knowledge. Every session of mine is followed by an assessment. And I just don't put slides and talk. In fact, there are many presentation where we just them talk, share their views. So my only thing is to the students is, if you have any training, this is not about me. any training, if you want it to be meaningful and value adding, definitely I would request you, urge you to participate, because if you don't participate, gone are the book learning period where I grew up or Mr. Prakash sir grew up. We grew up in an era where it's okay. You just write the exams, you get a degree, and then off you get a job. That's not the case anymore, by the way. So that's more like a ticket, but that entry ticket it's not essentially an entry ticket. It's at best a qualification for you to be considered. There is a difference between being considered and being chosen. There's a big difference, right? So you need to understand that its degree is important, very important, no doubt, but it's only one small thing in your profile. Okay, so you need to keep interacting, you need to keep reading, keep asking questions, and that's the best way to learn. And that's how I learned all my life, being very, very inquisitive and sometimes irritating also, but that's okay. That's okay. You learn. At the end of the day, you learn, and other also appreciates. I mean, I would always appreciate people who stop me and ask me 100 questions and don't allow me to go to the next point till I clarify. I really like such students. So anyways, all the best to you. Have a good Sunday. Sunday is probably not the best of days to connect. So
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day and a great week ahead. Bye.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot. All the best. Happy Sunday.